Hey, if you're hearing this, it's most likely that you're watching the first part of a 4-part series. It was originally meant to be just a singular video, but then it got longer and longer and longer, so I split it into, well, 4 parts. Please, before you come to any major conclusions, watch all 4 parts. They should all come out on the same day. Some things from later parts will recontextualize things from the earlier ones. That's why I'm saying this. Alright, enjoy. Okay, so after I released my 38-minute video, I was called a pedo and a homophobe. Yeah, that's a great fucking start into this video, isn't it? Okay, jokes aside, most big people ignored it, although usually calls are responded to and debunked or discredited. And since I made a video with the most views, yet got the least attention for whatever reason, I can only imagine that that specific reason is, well, that they didn't want any eyes on me. Which in turn makes me think that I may have hit a few too many home runs. When my video is linked or brought up, it's just thrown to the side and that's it. Like, it's just starting to look like I'm fucking feared by this community. However, I did get a few comments by bigger creators that I will just quickly talk about. One, there's Shut Up Jojo, who was actually very normal and nice and actually gave me some hope for this community. Seriously, at the end of my last video, I had completely given up hope on anyone being acceptable, yet this fella just casually flipped it all on its head. Then there's also Speeds, who actively did try to explain himself, but when I applied some scrutiny to his statement, he just completely dodged any and all points I made. Reminder, just really quick here, he and Saster caused a panic for no reason. So I do believe it's important to, still ask questions when something doesn't add up here. Then, the biggest one here is a response by Brodo. And of course you might ask, why even bother responding to her considering she was such a minor point of my last video? Well, you'll know why soon enough. But yeah, she responded, basically said that everything but her part was true, and still basically proved my point of the team trusting her and her being biased towards them. The only thing she really debunked was me accidentally calling them friends, when yeah, that may have been the wrong word, but it doesn't change the fact that there was a bias there. In response, I give her 3 different comments and never get a single reaction on any of them. This goes to show how vague and arrogant she can sometimes be, which will matter way later in this video. However, I will leave her out of the Up Revie situation as I did promise in my last response to her. Now, just to clarify some shit from my last video. 1. That curse rant was just a side point. It was not meant to be an actual part of the callout. Hell, I'm pretty sure I even said that everything in that section was just my opinion, and not really a factual statement. Now, some of you might have seen that calm video that I uploaded shortly after my 38-minute one. I didn't make that one because my assumption was proven wrong, but because it was proven to be pretty fucking hasty. But I'll get to that later, it's a bit of a mess. When I spoke about the big 4 in my last video, that wasn't really meant to indicate how bad they were. I do not think that Mar really compares to fucking JesterFrog. I don't think that any of them are actually worse than her, for example. It's just that they were the most powerful ones in this community. They were the mods directors. They had a lot of influence here. Next, I would like to add a small apology to Crybin. Now, I didn't do shit to him, but people seriously harassed him over the JesterFrog Redemption arc comment, which was so unnecessary. Please do not harass anyone I mention in these videos. It's just a disgusting way to have internet discourse. You're definitely free to hate them, and I fully understand why you do. But please don't be dickheads about it, okay? Oh, and you might see this name GBTAnon in the responses to this one tweet that Crybit made. Keep that name in mind. It'll come back up again. Hey guys, I am back and not sick this time. That's right, I am no longer dying of COVID. Hell yeah, default dancing. However, despite my voice being back to normal, I will not be voicing the entirety of this video simply due to its length. I do not wish for my voice to get grating. So I have asked your average Joe to voice some parts of this video, which he was nice enough to actually do. Thanks, dude. Now, you might have noticed that I'm in a more, jovial mood than I usually am in this kind of video. That is because this specific video will reach the deepest depths of moral depravity, so we do need some balance, So, before we get started, when I discuss Rightburst, I will be 100% neutral. Kid's been through enough, please stop fucking harassing him. Now, I cannot make any promises on Joe's behalf to also be so neutral, but yeah, that's besides the point, I guess. I don't really care about petty shit like revenge or harassing someone, I only care for the truth. So please do not mistreat a fucking 16-year-old over internet drama. Please and thank you. Something else that's probably worth mentioning is that certain people have changed their names, but I will always be sticking to the old ones as those are the more recognizable ones. So, whenever I say JesterFrog, I mean the person that's, as far as we know, currently called Bunny Tables. When I say Jackie, I mean Dusky Y. When I say Jasper, I mean the person with a billion fucking names. I'm not even gonna bother listing all of them, here's just a couple. Brodowo, or Brodo, is Mamie Mayo. And Madman Halloween is Wicked Woman Halloween. I will still try to stick to she/her pronouns for her, but I'm not perfect. I'm just using the old name for the sake of recognizability. Okay, I think that covers everything I need to say very early on in the video, so time to get into the content warning for the rest of this mess. So, warning. This video will talk about topics such as attempted suicide, suicide baiting, child abuse and pedophilia, child exploitation, possibly, depends on your definition, verbal abuse, depression, manipulation, public slander, betrayal and abandonment, disrespect towards the dead, and people being general dickheads. Right now, on screen, you should be seeing a playlist with every relevant video to this whole situation. I recommend watching it first, before this video. You can skip the Toastify streams and the Bored Oranges video if you want, they're mostly just reiterating what we already know and getting more eyes on the subject. Now, most of this evidence was collected up until the 19th of November 2022, but I did still manage to squeeze some subjects from later on in. However, I cannot guarantee that everything that happened in between that date and the release of this video is in here. It's just too big a fucking conspiracy web. As I am recording this, it is the 10th of December 2022, meaning that anything that happens after this is like basically off the table of being mentioned unless it's a really big deal. So you're most likely gonna know anyway. So yeah. Still, right now, this video has over 1,000 screenshots worth of evidence. That is a lot, and I expect this video to be fucking ages long, so I hope you enjoy this ride, because I sure as hell did not. I made this video with the goal in mind to end the entirety of the exit drama. And while that is, realistically speaking, impossible, we can at least try to do that by starting where everything started. Revie. Okay, let me just preface this chapter with saying that Rightburst admitted to me in a group chat that it was just slander. And this is not some fake Rightburst, just for some fake screenshot. No, this is the real one and I'm gonna prove it. Now, there are definitely people who have impersonated Rightburst, that is nothing new, but unlike that impersonator that Rightburst himself exposed, the one I talked to doesn't just have the same tag, but also doesn't use a capital I instead of a lowercase l, and has the same creation date as the one you will find in all the different servers. And to further prove that this is not just two different screenshots of Rightbursts and this account is still separate, I have the fucker friended, and you see it on the screen with German text. And for those who don't know, yes, I am German. So yeah, I hope this just completely proves that this is in fact Rightburst saying it. And you'll know why he said it way later. We'll get back to that, don't worry. Next, I'd just really quickly like to talk about the mistreatment some of the Revie supporters have gotten, even though they really just try to follow the truth. We had people like Biddle3 just casually saying, hey, how about I kill you, how about that, to people just defending Revie. Or you have psychopaths like Juno saying that a Russia versus Ukraine mod, you know, a war that is still going on right fucking now, would be better and more tasteful than a quote-unquote groomer's character. Christ! Then there's also just people saying that we don't even deserve truth and should just blindly follow the word. Or, way more interestingly, people being told to rot in hell and straight up getting doxxed for the heinous crime of following evidence. But honestly, we never even needed all the new evidence in order to prove her innocent. Fuck, just 1 or 2 days after the initial threat by Falsecow, there was this person, okay, PenUmbraNoctis is their name, that immediately pointed out how shit the evidence presented is. And unlike Falsecow, they actually allowed some fucking discourse. Hallelujah! Like, comments were not turned off, and that's surprisingly rare in this drama. Genuinely, thank you, Sprocket. Thank you for being like actually sane, even back in January. Ponder Sprocket is seriously an unsung hero in this drama. It's insane. Now, something else that may have fallen under the wayside in all this mess is Revie's personal response dog. I'm not gonna go over it all again simply because most of it has already been used repeatedly as evidence because, you know, she herself acknowledged every grooming related accusation in it and debunked those, then also showed actual proof of her going to therapy, which people for some reason still claim at times that she just never did. And it was completely disregarded because it didn't fit into the narrative of her being a groomer and admitting to it too. Okay, very quickly, for the sake of ending this discussion around her fully, allow me to give you a better explanation of the parallax situation than I had in my last video, because there was even more to this that I had completely missed. Previously, I only discussed Rightburst's dog. My main points were that it was spiteful to Avery, manipulated Revie's image, and called her a pedo. But there was a dog before this one, the one by Avery. So let's get right into it. Some minor things of note from this doc are that this whole situation apparently only started because Rightburst wanted to quote-unquote confront Revie over her 4chan Q&A. This is where the first lie comes in, that Revie did not take any accountability before, like fucking hell. Falsecow even mentioned it in the thread, what the fuck are you on about? And then basically shows the same convo that Rightburst also showed, you know, that group tip between the three of them. Then it gets weirder because Avery just straight up goes on to slander Revie, okay? First of all, when giving a justification for contacting her, it's that they helped out a groomer before? You know, I'm not surprised, but it's weird that you would just say it like that. And immediately, Avery just came in immensely hyper-aggressively. You know, saying shit like, you are a liability to others around you, you're dense, the facet of you constantly stirring up shit whenever your presence is known, or your nature to be this blatantly ignorant. Those are all direct quotes. Just not me exaggerating, just direct quotes. Then Revie gives a justifiably angry response. She shows how the people continuously slandering her are the actually dense ones. She says that she's only stirring up shit because she's still alive, which, yeah, she herself is fucking tired of being a liability. She doesn't want this. And she also just wants people to actually talk to her in a civilized manner instead of always pulling shit over to Twitter where she doesn't even have a platform anymore. And she just can't do shit anymore without being seen as malicious or manipulative. And it turned out to be true because this fucking doc happened. She then goes on to further give some valid fucking criticism as to why the Excyclopedia, you know, a Sonic.exe wiki run by Kenny of all people, singled her exe out to be removed because of drama. Avery then acts like she tried to be quote-unquote buddy-buddy with him, but after being understandably frustrated, that's just making sure that there's no bad blood between them. You know, Rev kinda went apeshit on Avery, justifiably so. So I think being a bit kind afterwards is just, you know, normal. Now, here's where something actually questionable on Revie's part comes in. Her asking Avery if they want to co-own Faker, which is suspicious, to say the least. So yeah, congrats Avery, you have a point. Then immediately there comes another good point by Revie, asking why Faker needs to be removed in general, because, you know, separation of art and artist should always be a thing. Then Avery says that her talking about overdosing comes out of left field, which, not really, she was already depressed and suicidal due to all the slander and harassment you twats put her through. And also, she just fucking trusted you, Avery? Of fucking course she'd tell you about shit like that. This isn't out of left field, you caused this, and then also caused her to be willing to talk to you about it. By the way, when eventually a dog came out to expose the team, Avery essentially just blamed Revie, even though she did her best to help. Fantastic. Then there's also random ass DMs of Rev treating a broken down Avery with nothing but kindness. They discuss Chaotix's redesign. Rev makes it very clear that she doesn't want to harm Avery. Avery in turn is being an apathetic cunt when Revie asks for their thoughts on her. And she still admits to her faults, to which Avery just says, "You don't know when to let go, that's your main fucking issue." I don't think it's Revie who's struggling to let shit go, Avery. I really don't think so. Now after this active slander session, Avery speaks of giving Rev a chance, bitch where, saying that they were manipulated and gaslighted to a heavy degree, yeah, right, definitely, you were the victim of gaslighting, and telling people to cut ties with Revie and that she's manipulative. Then they go on to apologize to fucking everyone but the actual fucking victim of the situation, Revie herself. I would say that I don't have any words for you, Avery. but here's some. Go fuck yourself. Okay, next up, let's talk about some of the victims, well, quote-unquote victims, of Revies. First, there's Madzilla. He finally admitted it wasn't grooming, and this time even publicly. Oh wait, it's just in the comments section and not his Twitter? Fuck off, dude. This is too little too late. You always knew it wasn't grooming. You confirmed it in your DMs with Revie. Why couldn't you confirm it on Twitter? Get fucked. Also, I would like to say a message from one of the victims that I got in contact with. Dreamy fucking carrots. Yes, the rat milk one. I got in contact with them. They said that they and Revie ended up partying on good terms. No, they weren't still involved in that call out because they were manipulated or something. No, don't make such claims. It's just complicated. I cannot show you any proof, sadly, as that would leak their new name they're under. So I know this seems untrustworthy. You just gotta believe me on this one. Still, I would like to say that just like Madzilla, Dreamy should have at least made like an anonymous public statement on this. This is just a bit cowardly, if you ask me. From both of them. The drama's basically over. Why hide shit anymore? Oh and yeah, when I say over, I mean over. Revie has already left ages ago. That kinda makes this whole drama irrelevant. The Revie haters won. She left the internet. I did manage to get a final convo with her, then she unfriended everyone. I announced that in like a semi-public server. It then got shared on Twitter and went fucking viral. So yeah, Revie's gone. I hope you cunts are fucking happy now. So yeah, if you still think that Revie's a pedo or a groomer, there's genuinely no hope for you anymore. Now, even though that, you know, Lenny, me and all the other Revie defenders basically got everything right, let's be real, there's one thing we all fucked up on. Now, I don't really blame anyone, as that's just information that was completely hidden from the public, but it's the following. Rightburst was not the main man behind slandering Revie. It was, in fact, Kubi and the next person we'll talk about. Yeah, I didn't expect this either, but apparently this is the truth, so let me share it with you. Now, what really brought me onto this trail is that group chat I had with Rightburst. I'll tell you what it's about later. This is just about Falsecow right now. Basically, Rightburst told me that this whole Revie situation started in a group chat with Falsecow, Jasper, Dreamy, and Kubi. I then asked Jasper, yes, I'm in contact with him, we'll get to that later too, and he told me about his own role in all this, mediating between Kubi and Revie. Revie did try to communicate to Kubi, but Kubi immediately left, which, truth be told, was to be expected. Jasper then also confirms to me that Kubi and Falsecow were, in fact, the main people behind the Revie slander. So yeah, there you have it, from the sources themselves. Now let's talk about other bullshit that Falsecow has pulled off, because I'm fucking pissed at him. Now if you want to know why I am pissed at him, that is all because of a personal experience I've had. In case you don't remember, Lenny once made a normal CD voice reel. Then I decided to pull a prank and do the same with Sally Alt and Satanas to piss Falsecow and Rightburst off. That was specifically because they were kinda the main targets of my two different drama videos. Therefore I wanted them to actually acknowledge me, their critic, as, like I said before, I was completely ignored. Now, Falsecow did acknowledge me by sending me a fucking copyright strike. Now, the email of YouTube notifying me about this is sadly in German, so you guys probably won't understand it, but there should be a translation of it on screen right now. This is immature, to say the least. He literally tried to give my channel a fucking strike over a joke. Now, this is nothing new, okay? Falsecow is just like this. He tried to pull Sally.exe as a concept from the Nightmare series because he didn't like the way the games handled rape, which is a fair point. It didn't handle it well, but you don't own the concept of Sally.exe. Okay, this next one's just a small side point, but it's fun, so why not talk about it? You might recall me saying in my first drama video, you know, the 11-minute one on the original Falsecow thread, that I needed to use the Wayback Machine in order to access Falsecow's tweets. That was because Falsecow deactivated. But since then, he has returned to Twitter and showed disappointment because people defended Revie. He never really made the reason clear. But like, the assumption is reasonable considering he never really handled dissent well, you know? However, that return allowed me to find a batshit insane rant. I even made a meme about that. Egg uploaded. So, I guess it's linked now. Yeah, no, I just made this tangent in order to, you know, lighten the mood a little, because we're about to go into two of the worst docs that I ever had to read. Now, Falsecow made two specific docs after a certain callout we'll talk about in a second. The first one came out really shortly after, just a couple days I think, and the second one like yet another month later in order to like have more prep time to explain away why he supported fucking JesterFrog. But like I said, more on that in a minute. Both docs are now unavailable for unknown reasons. But luckily I managed to copy the first one and download it, and the second one I didn't even bother with. I just saved it on the Wayback Machine. Now I don't want to talk about the JesterFrog bits yet, so we'll skip over the first doc and the first half of the second one just to talk about the Revie section of putting the Sonic.exe controversies to rest. Falsecow's second and final doc on the situation. I'm gonna be going into detail, so get ready. This will take a bit. We start with him immediately victimizing himself and bringing up the sexual abuse he himself has suffered, even though it is basically irrelevant to what's happening right now. Just like in his original thread, I'm gonna have to say that your own experiences are irrelevant here unless the people themselves are involved. He then goes on to act like him explaining himself was ignored. Like, bitch, I gave everyone the offer and all you did was give me a fucking copyright strike. He asked the quite frankly insulting question of what could I ever gain from framing someone? Simple, you satisfied your fucking hero complex with Kubi, you piece of shit. I'm almost 30, I'm too old for clout seeking, nobody said you are. The call out was a wake up call for Revie, you ruined her life with lies. Revie was dangerous for those around her and I had to be the adult helping the scared kids. Bitch, Rightburst himself has over 20k followers. The fuck are you talking about? These people can speak for themselves. You did not need to get involved. Plus there's also just massive assumptions about intent for the Revie defenders. That the Revie defenders are in this for the sake of getting faker bag or just being entertained. Then we get into the hilarious JesterFrog bit. Put a pin in that, that'll be discussed in the next chapter. Right after, he immediately makes an actually good point that harassment and driving someone off a platform is not okay, as they'll just be able to come back and be even worse. He somehow uses that to connect the JesterFrog situation and the Revie situation, as though he himself was not guilty of that and the latter. Then comes a, quite frankly, ludicrous list of things that the Revie defenders have supposedly done to the victims. We'll be going over each of them one by one. First, sending them poorly summarized and monetized evidence, in quotes, videos about Revie's innocence, also in quotes. There's multiple issues with this. 1. 30 plus minutes is apparently poorly summarized now. 2. Only Lenny monetizes videos and he only did that like 2 or 3 days before the stock, so what the fuck are you talking about? 3. The quotes on evidence is an empty way to fucking discredit us, and the quotes on innocence are just fucking laughable. Next up, comparing these two disgusting but similar situations to try and state how one was less bad or more hypocritical than the other, which not really. We weren't trying to relativize shit. The point was to show you guys being hypocritical by supporting the person that saved actual fucking CP, while demonizing the person being slightly sexual with quote-unquote victims who said it was fine. Yeah, I can do the quote-unquote thing too, you piece of shit. Harassing and provoking those kids to the point of them lashing out. This one's too fucking vague. What the fuck are you even talking about? Creating memes and joke Friday Night Funkin' mods to laugh at the issue. First of all, fucking cope, there will always be memes to mock how disgusting you guys are. And second of all, which mods do you mean? It can't be retaliation that has jack shit to do with Revie. So what fucking mods are you talking about? And don't say Forgotten Remnant. If you say that, I will laugh at you. Disrespecting the boundaries on purpose. Again, way too vague. What the fuck do you mean? If you mean asking for a statement on Revie, well, if you lie, we do want to know the truth, so maybe be honest next time around. Doxing and threatening. Okay, this one's a straight up lie. None of y'all were ever doxed over this, and threatening is once again too fucking vague. But Revie defenders, those were actually doxed, so fuck off with that. Creating fake accounts, pretending to be the abuser. The fake Revies were Revie haters trying to further ruin her image, and you know it. You're not that fucking stupid. Making the victims look bad for having an emotional reaction. Again, too vague. What the fuck do you mean? Criticizing you for lying doesn't count, by the way. Cyberstalking the victims to try and justify how in the wrong or at fault they were. Again, too vague. Screenshotting your tweets and the occasional DM ain't cyberstalking. Neither is publicly asking y'all to finally speak. He then has the fucking audacity to say, I can still go on and on. Please only do so if you actually have something worth saying, not vague shit and straight up lies. Then there's a random tangent with a bunch of screenshots about quote-unquote reactive abuse. If you don't know what that is, that's basically calling the victim the actual abuser for the sake of manipulation. And he tries to say that that's what's happening here. Fuck off, Falsecow. The victim blaming part is ironic, by the way, but we'll get to that. He then says that he investigated the Revie situation quote-unquote neutrally, which I'm rather sure that I know what exactly he's referring to, but we'll get to it later. Apparently he even had a fucking breakdown, puzzling everything together, like, dude, that happened to me too, you're not fucking special. And has the fucking audacity to say that Revie took everything out of context. Show some evidence or fuck off, false copyright. He then uses it as an excuse to not have checked if JesterFrog is a predator or not. Dude, you make your first response to the callout just hours later, your first dog just 2 more days later. When did you look into it then? Where did you suddenly get the fucking time from if you were so busy investigating this shit? Next he talks about his personal experiences in the field of children getting sexually assaulted, because he himself was fucking groomed, which just makes me ask, why the fuck would you lie about someone being a pedo if it's so serious to you? He said he left the project of investigating Revie and gave it to a neutral party, which I think I know who it is, but we'll get to that later too, and that the info will come out when it's fully compiled, not before. AKA never. At this point, you guys already had way more than half a year to do this shit, and by now it's been almost a full fucking year. This is never coming out, and we all know it. Then he officially severs all his ties with the excellent FNF community, which, good fucking riddance, and then talks about some cycle of trauma, like, yeah, there is one, you piece of shit, and you're the fucking cyclist, but we'll get into that in chapter 5. Then Falsecow finds yet another fucking way to pull the most audacious move he has pulled yet. How does he keep doing that, genuinely? He says that he owned up to all his faults without shame, which fuck no you didn't. You're still slandering Revie and you're still doing the same bullshit. You're not walking away, you're running away, you piece of shit. And then, once again, most audacious move yet, the final lines of this godforsaken document. I've already won by staying true to myself and my values despite it all. No you didn't. Can you look at yourself at the end of all this and say the same? Yes I can. Fuck you. As a small side note, Falsecow, the cunt with the biggest fucking hero complex, then complains about getting shit for lying, while also hiding behind right burst as a shield and doing jack shit while his mental health declines. You are such a fucking coward. Now, as I said before, the other doc was just about JesterFrog. So let's talk about what exactly happened to cause the creation of those docs.
Jesus fucking Christ, this is a mess. Before we get to the elephant in the room, I need to address some evidence first. Turns out JesterFrog is the new name Bunny Tables, along with a Steam account that includes Silas, Avery, and Animic Hummus as friends, as well as a Roblox account that includes Jasper in the friends list. For those who don't remember, JesterFrog also made the character Normal CD, whose V8 clearly supports her with a heart. What? Even after JesterFrog's cancellation, Normal CD still lived on, with Avery and Jasper owning him. Hell, the VA had a whole Twitter account for it. She was also in the Cult of X Discord server, whose owner is currently unknown. According to Jasper and Infinite Jr., some other big names were included, notably Falsecow, his fiancée Noise, Kenny, his fiancée Tia.png, Jasper, Avery, Astronomicon, KG Peppis, and EXE Burner. Shut Up Jojo was also in there at one point, but left early and openly does not support JesterFrog in any way. So, if it wasn't obvious by now, someone got 200% mad and made a burner account. Adam McCummis also made his own creepypasta, not an EXE, a full-on creepypasta, with Jasper, JesterFrog, Silas, Avery, and Hop, which is probably short for Hopscotch, who's the VA of Normal CD. JesterFrog vented about being called a pedo, with Falsecow and Avery openly supporting her, making them look suspicious in the process. You could even say that there is a groomer among us. While I do have to admit a child-obsessed freak that can't stay soft to the thought of a child is a good insult for pedos, it's still horrendous what JesterFrog did, pedophile or not. She also claimed to be better than Revie, yet she knowingly had CP. The constant comparison when she's objectively worse yet gets supported because she has bigger names for friends speaks volumes about her and just shows her hypocrisy. After EXE Burner's thread came out, JesterFrog ran away immediately. Go figure. Falsecow said it was bullshit and claimed there was missed context. Regardless of context, you still supported someone who saved CP and refused to get rid of it. Saying that you get why it's disgusting does not negate it. If anything, that wording makes you look worse, plus you talked about his saving grace. He also spoke about a solution, which is just a doc. By the way, don't think we forgot about those, we'll get to those later. Dummy and JoJo were based enough to actually retweet it. Thanks for being one of the few sane people in this godforsaken community. As for the live right burst reaction, he just pulled shit out of his ass about how he felt betrayed by Avery. Also, for some reason, he also focused on getting the name My Horizon back. Multiple mods can share a name with no problems. Hell, a mod I'm working on has his named Proxy, yet that name's already taken anyway. Com Gaming was just vague as shit about it, not much more to say there. Krybit said he wanted to be left alone about it, which is fair since he was misinformed. Oh, and thanks for that Cult of X comment, by the way. Speaking of Cult of X, it was also the server leak in this thread. Before I strip down this shite response, I gotta say that for some reason, Avery wanted to keep Normal CD, a character made by a groomer, in illegal instruction. Granted, I do believe in separate the art from the artist, yes. But knowing that Avery obviously hates Faker because of his creator just screams hypocrisy. But yeah, they made a response to EXE Burner's thread and took their leave. Let's go over that. While you may not support JesterFrog's actions, you still supported her and downplayed said actions. And if you did want her to change and get help, then don't downplay her actions by saying she's better than Revie. That's bullshit and you know it. You say that she tried to make some change for herself. No, she fucking didn't. She said herself that she did not need therapy, while Revie did much less and still went to therapy. You misinterpreted part of that whole situation. Bitch, you had multiple rumors exposed before, so why didn't you look into it when you discovered something happened? Oh, support to see her change apparently. Yeah, that's why you keep your head up and ignore when people say, shut the fuck up. Okay, so there was an update doc in November apologizing for JesterFrog's involvement, claiming to go to therapy and telling people not to trust the impersonators. I don't buy it one bit. Thankfully, Mudo called out Avery's bullshit. JesterFrog was only kicked out of illegal instruction because people kept leaving. Said people apparently knew of her actions and didn't do jack shit about it. Mudo didn't speak up before because he was too scared to get involved. Yeah, people who call it scumbags do get blamed for making people suicidal. It also turns out there was proof of Avery knowing as well. Someone spoke about a thread Infinite Jr. made, we'll get to that later, which Neu Chrome agreed with. Falsecow made a response too, so let's go over that. So you say you learned about the issue, but when? You made this response 6 hours after the call-out went up. And if exposing a private friend server is a shitty thing for you to do, then say that to Revie's face, you hypocritical piece of shit. You're tired of issues like these being treated as exposed material. My brother in Christ, you supported someone who saved fucking CP. Now that I think about it, why do you all just say what JesterFrog did instead of directly stating what she did? Now the solution is communication, yet you weren't willing to talk about it? Maybe that's why you're called Falsecow. No, Falsecow, you don't have a right to be disappointed. Oh, and if communication is important, then why did Pillsbury Doughboy admit your Revie thread was rushed once she found out about it? So this isn't the way to handle it? Again, you supported a fucking groomer. The public deserves to know how you pull shit out of your ass. You should understand that people disapprove because everyone should disapprove of you. You've dealt with this bullshit before, why do you not prevent it another time? Or are you just too pussy to talk about Revie? Falsecow dropped another doc a couple days later, so let's break that down. Yeah, I get you don't support her actions, but that's the bare minimum. If you weren't friends or close, then why the fuck did you get involved in giving her advice? No, You didn't just support getting her therapy, you downplayed her actions too. Come to think of it, you didn't have time for this, yet you had time for Revie, which was a larger rabbit hole? Seems legit. Apparently you had suspicions that JesterFrog didn't get therapy, yet didn't do anything about it? What? Also, how does JesterFrog being a minor make things difficult? She was 17, which is not at all far from 18. You didn't want to judge without the full context, especially with your own experiences. That would be a fair point, but the context was easy to look for, especially with the people you associate with. You actually thought JesterFrog owned up to her actions, which is why you hated comparison to Revie. Again, context was easy to look for, and Revie did own up to everything. What are you on about? You even had that in your second thread. If you only learned the story the day the doc came up, then what's the response for? Oh, but you actually apologize for your ignorance. Neat. But you're still avoiding the Revie fiasco. And for what? And suddenly you talk about victims being silenced and then make shit about yourself? This is just sympathy baiting. And if you take online essay and CSA seriously, whatever the fuck that means, then why did you just ignore the JesterFrog bullshit? Instead, you decided to go down a rabbit hole of your own rather than just checking a doc. Unbelievable. Then you admit you have a hero complex, which was your motive in the Revie situation. Why am I not surprised? Oh hey, another actual apology. Good on you. Yes, you did encourage and defend that. Shut it. It feels like you just put more effort into formatting the doc than what the doc actually had to say here. This isn't the first groomer in the community, why did you not check the goddamn details? Oh wait, blatant favoritism. Now let's just go over the JesterFrog section of the second doc. You blame your friends for molding your opinion. What a start. You say you blindly admit what you're told, even though you were involved in 4 situations like this before: JC, Shannon, Driftstar, and Revie. Then you equate JesterFrog as an abuser to you as a victim. You don't just compare the two after you know who's who. Then you say you were misguided. True. You say EXE Burner should have privately communicated, yet both Gamereel and Large Lenny mentioned it in their respective videos. You then admit everyone was at fault. Correct. But then you say no one was informed when Avery sure as hell was. Then just a random tangent about ignorance, bystanding, and responsibility, when this is about your part. That's deflecting blame. You didn't get involved because of Revie, apparently. Well, that sure paid off, didn't it? The rest is just blaming others instead of yourself, as well as the community, and then going back on the Revie section. To sum up, this is just finding blame in everyone to avoid mentioning your own, acting like no one knew despite the fact it was public, a fuck ton of comparisons, and where are the victim blamers? Grow the fuck up. All Adam's response boils down to is, well, he went private, so we can't really know. Also, he's still dating JesterFrog, apparently. Before Adam's Twitter went private, it showed that he was 20, and JesterFrog was 17. Groomception, anyone? Hey, remember Kenny and Tia? Yeah, they made a response too. Tia's thread is just, we were too busy to know, and there's missing context. She also calls it unfair and scummy. Maybe she should check who she actively talks to, then we'll see unfair. Infinite Jr.'s screenshot, being as old as it is, was not out of pettiness, but because he was thrown out of the server and couldn't get a new one. Oh, and we'll get to him later. Now, let's dive into the first part of Kenny's doc. The other part we'll save for later. You're hurt? Bro, you did a bad here. What kind of start is this? You then request that people not associate with him anymore. Again, this is about you, you dumb balding son of a bitch. Jasper immediately gets thrown out too, but we'll get to that later. All of this, yet you still gave Avery a chance. They were not negligent. They just lack a moral compass. But to give credit where credit is due, Kenny doesn't condone JesterFrog's publicity, vouched for Falsecow, and actually thanked EXEburner. As for JesterFrog, you didn't have the whole context. I think we all get the point by now. You're just making excuses. You were also disappointed in everyone and blamed Jasper? And you downplayed Avery's role in defending JesterFrog? They were her main defender, and it's as clear as glass. But you also support people trying to better themselves and say it still doesn't negate what she did. Cool. All you knew was something happened and that she was trying to be better? Fair enough, I guess. Now, it's unacceptable that they never tried to check out the one doc that showed everything about JesterFrog, especially since Kenny later famously said he knew so much about Revie. However, considering how they were actually pretty busy, I'll rate this off as a mistake out of ignorance, not apathy. Hope you didn't forget GPT and On, because we're gonna go over their additions real quick. For Falsecow, they point out his hypocrisy, how he clearly showed support for JesterFrog, and the fact that supporters look like Mr. I may be a pedophile, but at least I'm not rude. For Jasper, there's a whole bunch of supporting JesterFrog, which I won't go into, but it'll still be in the evidence folder for completion. And then there's Adam. There's some screen caps that show he's got a big ol' case of I'm just sorry I got caught. Keep in mind that from what we could tell, he was still dating JesterFrog at the time. Now, GPT and Anon talked with Adam since he privated, so let's decipher what we can. Adam told a sob story for damage control, proved that he knew about JesterFrog, and responded even though no one can see it. GPT Anon shows that Adam revealed that he knew, confirmed to him about JesterFrog not going to therapy, meaning that Adam lied again. Infinite Jr. also gave his 2 cents, so let's cover that as well. He admits to supporting her as bunny tables and reveals a new server called Hell Michigan, which is a server with big EXE names similar to Cult of X. After the allegations surfaced, people let her stay thinking she changed. This reveals that Infinite supported her at the time, even to the point of letting her go on as EXE. Apparently she was involved in the allegations too, yet Tia showed that discussion was on July 8th, when JesterFrog and Infinite were cool mere days before. What a fucking backstabber. He also mentions his own cancellation and how people still supported JesterFrog, making them hypocrites. Then Adam trying to safe face, that's literally it. He also offered peace to his own slanderers, but GameRule will get to that whole thing later. Infinite then reveals other people in Hell Michigan, including Jack Gore, Egophobia, and KG Beppis. The rest is just rambling that's irrelevant to JesterFrog. Now, back to the live Rightburst reaction. Actually, I shouldn't really call it live, since EXEburner showed screenshots that proved someone told Rightburst about JesterFrog beforehand. He then responded to EXEburner saying that it was a Revie supporter and that he believed Avery properly handled the situation. EXEburner deleted the screenshots after that, probably out of intimidation. But EXEburner came back with more screenshots showing that the aforementioned someone was Nimbus Cumulus. Nimbus explained the situation to Rightburst, not giving him shit about the whole Revie thing. Well, he's actually pretty nice, giving Rightburst advice. That rhymes. Nimbus and Rightburst shit-talked the 3.0 team, as well as put a pin on the dementia thing. Rightburst's second response is just fucking hell. He tries to prove Nimbus is a Revie supporter and falls flat on his face. Nimbus actually seemed neutral on Revie, yet gave Rightburst a helpful critique. As for JesterFrog again, he did what he could about getting her out of illegal destruction and left the rest to Avery. Basically, every response was I didn't know except for Rightburst, somehow. It seems like a sufficient point at first, where both GameRule and Large Lenny pointed out in their respective videos, and it took a fucking Twitter thread to get people's attention. You wannabe saints are fucking unbelievable. All in all, everyone fucked up that definitely made the backlash earned. Except Avery and Adam, those two can go to hell. Fuck, I forgot a response. Jasper responded with, holy shit, this is big. Yeah, I'm not experienced enough for this one.